Cleidi is the founder of the ML Skills Academy. And whilst machine learning might not be something that lights up the lives of everybody, it's actually a fascinating subject. But in the tech industry, we have a tendency not to talk about it in a way that makes sense to everybody when it's something that affects everybody. So one thing that Cleidi is passionate about is making sure that everybody understands it. It feels like a no-brainer to me, but yet I come across it very rarely. So we will talk very passionately about the need to humanize tech more so that everybody is a part of it, and you'll hopefully feel that throughout. You're very welcome, Cleidi, today. Well, we're going to talk about lots of different things. We're going to talk about machine learning, and you have created the ML Skills Academy. Let's start with I guess what it is and how it's going to differ from other machine learning training programs.
Yeah, absolutely, Jenny. ML Skills Academy actually was born from not seeing how machine learning has been taught over the years, and a big focus on being theoretical and not really engaging with the workplace and mimicking the problems that people have to solve in real life situations, So I noticed that something had to be done. And with ML Skills Academy, what we do is we focus on real life and project-based teaching, really, and learning. And the goal here is to prepare you to solve problems in your industry using machine learning and really finding solutions to the problems that we have in the world today. But machine learning really it's kind of becoming commonplace in most industries, really. And this is due to the increase of the amount of data that we have today. So if you think, just think a few years ago, how the amount of data is increasing, it's been exponentially. It's exponentially growing, and no human is capable of dealing with it, Jenny.
No.
You can't, you really can't process data anymore because it's so much of it. So you that's when machine learning comes in, right? You need that to actually those algorithms to help you to make sense of that data.
I love to me, it's a very unique approach with regards actually anticipating what people are going to do with this skills and this training at the end of it, because, well, traditional college courses will follow a format and you'll come out with your certification and then you'll go and get your job skills and figure out afterwards how to apply it. And this sounds like it's got that built in beforehand.
Yeah.
So if you're doing that then, and you're doing practical skills and theory, how do you balance both of those things so that when the people come out, they're job ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, balance is very important. I'm not saying theory is not important. You need to understand theory. You need, for example, in machine learning, we need to understand, for example, a little bit of the maths behind how to build an algorithm. It's important, right? But everything, we have this philosophy, you see, at ML Skills Academy. Everything that you learn, you need to be able to use it to solve a real life problem. Right? If it's too much theory and you can't see a practical application, then it shouldn't be there, right? So we try to balance that way. Like you need to learn the right amount to understand, right? And then apply at the same time. So what we do is, because learners, they go through this project-based approach, by the end of it, they have a portfolio of ML solutions that they created for different industries, So one of the things that we do, for example, is we divide learners into different industries that they are either working or they want to work. And the three main ones that we see are healthcare, finance, e-commerce, right? So they can choose the projects that they're going to do. And so by the end of it, like right now we have a 12-week course. By the end of it, you have a portfolio that you can actually show to your employer and, practical skills. Like, I know how to build this, and this solves this particular problem, right? So that's what we want.
It's interesting because I've had a bunch of conversations recently with people where they're saying, When it comes to taking ML and AI, that prompt engineering is a big challenge, because they want prompt engineers, but in order to create great, accurate prompts, you need to understand the industry or the subject, whatever it is that you're prompting on. It's not just a case of, I'm going to learn these 10,000 prompts and they're going to be perfect for every situation. Putting the two of them together, to me, makes sense. Yet I haven't, other than when I came across ML Skills Academy, and there probably are others, but you're the first one that I've come across that I see actively doing that. Let's take it back a little bit. So because obviously you've created it and it's up and running now, and I want to get stuck into what people are doing when they're on on your courses. But how did you get there? Tell me a bit about your background, because I know it's different, and I do love a squiggly path and a lot of variety in people's background, and I think that's really interesting to me. How did you get to the ML Skills Academy? What have you done in the past?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think having a variety in your background, and it really, in my case, it stems from having a very curious mind. I'm just like, that's just how my brain works. I'm very curious about everything, and I think at my core, I'm an educator, right? I always think of myself as a teacher, because that's how. One of those things, like how you define yourself, I define myself as a teacher, is someone who is there to help others to acquire complex knowledge, right?
Yeah.
I always identify myself like that, but also I have a very curious mind, and that's the reason why I have navigated through so many different backgrounds. But my life, and always I have been a teacher, either teaching tech. I was a philosophy teacher. I was a statistics teacher. I have always been a teacher. Now I'm a machine learning educator as well. So I always see myself as an educator. And my background really reflected that curiosity. And I think everything started when I was 17 years old. And I'm going to tell a secret here. When I was 17 years old, I went to college and I did my first degree, which was in philosophy. And nobody understood why. Everybody thought, oh, this is a lot of theory. There is no application. You're never going to get a job. I got that a lot. But what it did was it really helped me to create this critical thinking, right? To think in a logical way, to approach a problem from different angles. And the thing that people forget is at its core, philosophy is about solving problems. Like, these people are thinking about ideas of how to solve practical problems, right? We forget about that. So that was like the start of the journey. It really opened up my mind to learning and exploring, and particularly, like, my brain seemed to be very much attracted, particularly to very complex problems. The harder the better. Like, I loved it. And from there, I started in education. Then applied psychology. In applied psychology, I focus more on psychometrics, which is more the assessments, the maths, the statistics, really. And that from statistics, it led me to machine learning, because the backbone of machine learning is statistics. So one thing went to another, and then from there, I went to design thinking, which is pretty much how to apply, in a very empathetic way, in a real life problem solving mode, those topics and that knowledge, right? So one thing led to another, but it's very important to have like a broad mind, and that's one of the things that I always looking for. I always find very interesting people that have an interest in very different things, because the world is not. As I grow old and as I mature, I kind of understand the world is not like, you can't be kept in silence, right? The world is global. The world it's interconnected. So everything's interconnected.
I love the way you threaded it out there, because, looking at that on paper, you'd have to wonder, how the hell did you get from one to the next? And it's funny, as you were talking, I was thinking, I did a design thinking course a couple of years ago, And I remember spending most of my time explaining to people that I work with and people around me, what the hell a design thinking course is. That sounds soft and fluffy. But I was like, sometimes I'd like to think I'm a creative thinker or problem solver. Sometimes you need to go and remind yourself that those are things that you like to do and that you're good at. So for me, design thinking was one of those, reminding me to kind of go back to the roots and remember that you can pare a lot of problems down to basics. And it's suddenly everything, no matter what was proposed to me, didn't feel like a huge issue. Like my son spoke to me yesterday about he's coaching a girls rugby team, and they have to make decisions about who they're putting forward for the Southeast team. Big deal. He was on the Southeast team when he played himself, and he was so stressed out about how to make the decision. So we sat down and we talked about different ways of thinking about it. I said, you can get all caught up in the emotives and, you know, maybe somebody's not playing great now, but they deserve to have it because they've played great before. I said, but, you know, let's go back and look at the criteria and at its simplest form, what are you being asked to do? And it took, you could see the decompression of pressure because we came with, you know, 1, 2, 3 different ways that he could come at it and then break it down. So for me, design thinking helps make things simpler. And when you're approaching things like ML or AI, or even I guess if you get into something like quantum computing where everything seems huge, it's going to make everything easier. I love that. And you thread it.
And that explains, you know, design, sorry to cross you,
No,
Jenny,
go
again.
for it.
That explains why this approach, right? Why this approach, like you mentioned earlier, like why say college, they approach machine learning from a book and a lecture, and then you have to go and figure out how to apply in the industry, right? That's the approach. I think design thinking really helped me to understand that everything starts with the user and the you know, the real life application, and then you look the other way, right? So how can I teach this to actually fulfill the needs of this industry, right? So I think that's a very interesting, and I think design thinking really helped me to shift that, you know, and think about the user, think about the needs, think about the reality of the industry right now, and how can we adapt to that reality instead of the opposite, right?
So there's a human aspect.
Absolutely, it's human-centered learning, right? And it's about problem solving. You know, I think this is really, I think schools should pay attention to this, you know, because I consider that problem solving one of the most important, like, life skills that you can have, right?
Absolutely.
And there are many ways to acquire this. Like in my case, as I said, I always started with a philosophy degree. Like I started with that's where I got the taste for that, you know, solving problems and finding different ways that ignites your creativity, I find, you know, because suddenly your brain really gets prepared for any kind of situation. And I think in the world that we live now is so complex, Jenny. It's so everything so, as I said, it's so fast and it's so interconnected as well, right? You can't afford to be and to say, look, I say I'm a computer scientist. I don't know anything about psychology. I don't know anything about design thinking. I don't care about those things. You can't afford anymore, right? Because everything's connected. So you really have to broaden your horizons and learn as much as you can from different areas in order to actually, you know, create something that makes sense to the world that we live in.
Absolutely. I personally think that both psychology and design thinking should be modules on any tech course. Like I studied psychology in the past as well, and I have to say it's probably one of the single most useful things I've learned since going into cybersecurity, being able to apply the two together. Game changer.
Oh yeah,
So
I mean, particularly in education. In education,
absolutely.
you know, like, you know, obviously as I said before, I always specialize in psychometrics. So I kind of, you know, in my professional life, I use more the the technical side of psychology, not so much
Yeah.
the human side, because I was dealing with assessments and
Yeah.
statistics, right? But obviously, I you do create that knowledge, that awareness of how important it is to as an educator, to have empathy, to understand how people learn, how they
Yeah.
absorb content and everything. So that all complements, the for a very successful learning experience.
Absolutely. And then ultimately, I guess a successful business experience wherever they're taking it after that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so you have a cohort that's kind of getting ready at the moment. What kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff would they be expected to do? Or are you able to share any examples of what your students might be doing or might be working on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, people are working on a variety of projects, because they get to select. Everyone has to obviously learn the core, the basics, and one of the things that we are very good at is like making sure they don't feel super nervous about acquiring complex knowledge, or they
Mhm.
don't feel scared about learning, and that's when the psychology knowledge comes in, and you try to make people comfortable with that. So
Yeah.
we work with tech and non-tech individuals, right? So for the tech people, obviously it's a little bit easier. For the non-tech people, it's a much more like learning curve, but we support them throughout the process, so they feel
Mhm.
supported with that. They're working on particularly on industries like healthcare, finance, and e-commerce, simply because those industries are the ones who are like fast adopters of ML. So they are working on a huge amount of data and creating projects such as, say, Netflix style
Yeah.
recommendation systems, right?
Yeah.
That's a common one. That's a common project that most people work in. Finance, they have projects like loan applications. How to make loan applications faster and bias free, if
Cool.
possible, right?
Yeah.
To help people. And we have also in healthcare, we have a student at the moment working on a project creating personalized nutrition for women going through menopause. So all sorts of
Cool.
projects, it's a very variety, but all very much rooted into real life problems. Everything
Yeah.
that they are doing is to solve a specific problem that they are finding the rewards right now.
That's got to be so fascinating for you then as well to see such a variety coming through.
Yeah.
They're not all,
No, no.
drilling out the
And
same stuff.
yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that are very important, Jenny, is really to make it accessible to as many people as possible, right?
Mm.
We, at the very start of the ML Skills Academy, we had this conversation. We were a small team, and so we decided, okay, we want to work with machine learning. So we have two choices here. Either we create a product and try to raise money and, keep it proprietary and, keep the knowledge him and try to make as much money as possible, and that's it. Or
Mm-hmm.
we can educate people about the technology, and so they are not left behind by the AI, because
Good.
we
Yeah.
believe, we are co-creators in this AI revolution. And so obviously myself as an educator, that my heart was actually into supporting people through this transition, because this transition is real. It's a very affecting many people, but in the next few years, that's going to be much, much more visible. And there is a lot of people that are afraid about losing their jobs. There is a lot of people who will lose their jobs if they are not prepared for this new reality. And
Yeah.
I particularly feel like, that's our job to help these people to be able to keep up with the technology, to be able to either keep their jobs or upskill to a new job and keep the technology open and accessible. And this is the reason why we have tech and non-tech professionals in our right? Because we
Yeah.
want to, we are creating a method and support systems that allows anyone to understand the technology, right?
Good.
This is
Yeah.
very, very important, because as we move forward with this AI revolution, lots of people will be lost, and lots of people will be pretty much dealing with those machine learning tools that are already being embedded into the companies, but really without knowing much about the technology, without knowing about the possibilities, about the risks, the ethical implications, and really dependent on an external team to understand. So we thought, no, this is not fair. Let's find a way. Let's create a way that everybody can have access to it. They can understand what is behind an algorithm, how these algorithms make decisions, and how this is going to affect your work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I like that. I like that. It's well thought out. So I have two kids at home that are due to start college. So we have lots of conversations over the last couple of years about career choices, and I find it funny still, even they're my kids and they know me, that they, like, I don't know if I want to do that for the rest of my life. So I keep explaining to him that, like, these days people can expect to have up to 3 different careers in their lifetime, that they can switch and change. Some will stay in what they want to do forever. But if you have somebody who's changing career, obviously coming into courses like yours versus somebody who's coming straight from school or college or something into it, they're going to have some different challenges. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen from our experience pretty much two main challenges, right? I think the first one, it's a psychological one. You see, you'll be surprised to know how much fear can affect people's cognitive ability, right?
Yeah.
It's really a blocker there. So that is the first battle, right? It's what I said before, make people comfortable, okay? They
Yeah.
are competent. Some people, they do need some support in that area. And I think we excel at that, making people like confident that they can learn, and we are there for them. So that's the first thing. Once you remove that block, then you have the the rework, which is like the learning curve. So for someone who is changing career, that learning curve can be a little bit higher, a little bit more difficult, but we are aware of that. So what we did was we created systems in our approach that it's very bite-sized, very simple, and also that provides a lot of support to the person. So it's our approach is a little bit different from a traditional e-learning platform, right? Because if you go to a traditional e-learning platform, you buy a course and you gotta do your course by yourself, and here we go. You left to your own devices, and at the end you submit something, you get a certificate. That's about that, right?
Yeah.
We are not we are not like that, in that sense that we are always with you, like we're always looking what you're doing. And every person has a ML engineer, which is assigned. So they kind of, are following and encouraging and helping and guiding. There is a lot of guidance, as much as you need. And also we have a community. We are creating a community of machine learning enthusiasts that actually help each other. And this is the root of everything, is like that. Collaboration. It's always collaboration, making accessible. We don't want to keep knowledge in silos to just a few, say, privileged people who happen to have studied computer science or had the privilege of doing some artificial intelligence course, and suddenly everybody else is left out. They don't understand what's going on. They're just using some pre-packaged tool, and that's it. We don't want that, right?
No.
That's the reason why we focus a lot on community building, collaboration, right, and supporting people, because we feel that it's going to be a better world like that. open up the technology, open up, building confidence that people can understand and they can be co-creators of the technology, not just like consumers. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I think that makes for a broader, better end product at the end of the day
Absolutely.
when you have that too.
Mm.
So I would imagine that not everybody joining your course is your average, I guess Irish Joe, as we would put it. So you're going to get people from lots of different cultural backgrounds and different language backgrounds, and you speak lots of different languages and have a different background as well. Do you think that has influenced the way that you're
Yeah.
designing these courses?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, from day one, you can see by our team. I mean, we are very much a diverse team, a small team, but very diverse. We focus a lot on collaboration and having this global mentality. Because we see how the technology is being like. It's being embedded into so many global systems and global organizations. You really have to be very, very open. The way how you talk about the technology as well, we try to make it as simple as possible. We try to make it as relevant as possible to different industries, different countries, different realities as well. So it's all thinking about that global citizen that needs to embrace and not fear AI, and prepare these people to embrace this new reality. Yeah, it's very important.
Cool. I like that. So it's not, you're not limiting yourself to just an Irish market or just a US market, or whichever whatever it is that you're doing could be valid across the
No,
world.
because by the nature of the technology, really, we couldn't do that. You see,
No.
we
Yeah.
couldn't do. It's really a global technology that. Yeah, I mean, we do teach in English, right? As you say yourself, like I myself I'm an immigrant, in this country. I was born in Brazil, so and I spent some time living in France as well. So I speak Portuguese, I speak French, in English, everything. But we obviously we keep everything in English because that's the language that that's mostly used in the technology. For the moment, right? We obviously
So
we
far.
will expand so far, yeah. So we keep in there, but at the same time, we are thinking global all the time, all the time.
I love it.
The way how we approach the projects within our own team as well, and even in our expansion plans as well. It's all global.
Excellent. I
Mm.
love that. So when in the area that you're in, so in machine learning, obviously, and like I find the same in the cybersecurity side, in tech generally, everything moves so fast. And I know that with traditional college courses, one of the biggest challenges to have is by the time they get to the end of the course, like the core stuff is always going to be the same, but some of the news and trends will have changed somewhat. So obviously with machine learning, they change even faster.
Yes.
And like, how do you manage to keep up with that and remain competitive for the people when they're going out into the job market?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is one of the edges that we have over, say, traditional e-learning platforms, or even, college is we are focused on one technology, and we do this really, really well because we are able to keep track of everything that's happening, all the tools, all the best practices, and, our goal is really to become that excellent center for machine learning, teaching and learning. And but if you think about a general trends in machine learning, I think the things that people are mostly talking about and paying attention to at the moment are things like ML ops, which is a process to streamline how you build and develop and manage ML systems in organizations, right?
Yeah.
The other obvious one is generative AI, with all the GPT models that are appearing in the market at the moment. which is how those models can create different content, either text, sound, videos, and etc. Other areas that I think people are really paying attention are ethical AI, very, very important. We are in the process right now of creating a AI framework for our curriculum, which is very important. People need to know the implications, the ethical implications of AI and machine learning. As machine learning is being more and more used for decision making, say in healthcare, finance, you need to be aware of those bias and ethical, legal implications as well. So ethical AI and ML, it's a big one, and people really should be paying attention to this. Other thing as well that I have been noticing is explainable AI and ML. What is this? Is pretty much understanding how these models make decisions, and this is really important for transparency and trust, right? Because you need to, it's almost like it's a peek behind the curtain, how those models think. They don't think, but they make decisions, right? They don't think, guys. We're not there yet. How do they make decisions? How do they predict things? It's very, very important. And that's where, what I was talking before about collaboration, openness, you need to understand the technology behind the curtain, right? You can't just be like a blind consumer, other more specialized things like edge computing as well has been a lot talked about, which is when you use ML models in small devices or IoT systems, sensors, instead of using ML models in huge data centers and now using in small devices. So all those things are happening and at a pace that clearly we have never seen that before. And that's so why innovative. Very, very fast paced and people. That's the reason why we felt the need. Okay, we need to specialize in machine learning, not only because that's the technology that we love, but also because it's huge. You think it's a small little thing. No, it's not. There is a lot happening and a lot of applications happening and developing in real time as we speak right now.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about all that and teaching everybody about the behind the scenes as such, do you go into the sustainability aspect of it too? I see more people starting to talk about that because a lot of people don't understand, end users anyway, don't understand necessarily what it means, the difference between Googling something and using ChatGPT for something from an energy perspective. Is that something that they get to learn about too, so they can, when you talked about ethical, so they can bear that in mind when they come out as well?
Yeah. I mean, it's always important to have an awareness, right? That everything that you do has a cost, and the cost can come from the sustainability point of view. It's a lot of energy, right? We consume, data centers need to be fed energy all the time. It needs power. So it's important to have an awareness, that every time that say you use a ChatGPT, you are spending some energy. It has a cost to it, or Google as well, right? But everything, I think it's important to understand the balance because everything is about trade-offs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, you are using energy, and yes, they do, consume a lot of energy. But then there are benefits as well that some people may say, far outweigh the cost. It's always about a trade-off and about awareness and having a balance and conscience, about.
Absolutely. The awareness is key, like even understanding.
That's right. Yeah.
A lot of people who aren't in tech, and I even say tech to generalize it because we would all know about it, but a lot of people that aren't in tech don't realize that. Because it doesn't, when it's just an app on your phone, it's easy to underestimate what's happening behind the scenes.
That's correct. Yeah.
If you're looking into the future then of machine learning, how do you see it, or what are the Skills Academy doing to prepare for that?
The future is very exciting, and I wish I knew I knew exactly how that's going to play out. Like I'm not, you know, I'm not being dramatic when I say this is unprecedented.
Mm,
What this moment that we're living here right now, it's unprecedented.
yeah,
We have never seen so much change in technology, like happening so fast, right? So it's impossible to predict the future. But in terms of machine learning, what we could see, and this is pretty much for sure, is the amount of data grows exponentially as it's happening right now. More and more companies and people, even like ordinary people, they will be using machine learning more and more. Even
mm,
they are using already, even without realizing, right? But
yeah,
that's going to be more and more clear in the next few years. People don't realize, like what I mentioned before, just you using your Netflix, you using machine learning, right? So it's already there, but people don't have that awareness yet. That's going to
yeah,
happen more, right? So big changes are coming, and I think particularly like in terms of the work that we're doing with machine learning education, what is going to happen is more and more hyper personalized learning experiences, right?
great.
Particularly in machine learning. So we are heading that direction. Building systems where you actually it's hyper personalized to your skill level and your industry and your goals, and it's a little bit different from using a traditional e-learning platform that where you choose your skills level and you
Yeah.
choose which lesson I'm gonna do today is here, and it's you kind of um, you know using the system, but it's more like the system's gonna know you.
Yeah,
In the next few years, the system is gonna know which lesson you missed, and what do you need to learn today, what do you need to revise. You don't need to tell, they gotta know, and we are heading that direction. And we at ML Skills Academy, we are already putting systems in place and researching systems that can do that in I would say like in the next 12 months or so.
yeah,
So it's very, very exciting, and
yeah.
it's open with opportunities. And as I said, this is all about problem solving. Machine learning is here. It's a tool to solve problems that we have, to make our
Mm,
lives easier, to understand data, to make better predictions, and trying to be more excited and embrace AI than actually fear and, as I said, be left behind. Or
mm,
that's not what we want. We want people to be excited about the future.
yeah.
It's gotta be good, it's gotta be fair, it's gotta be okay. We're gonna be co-creators in this thing. We are not gonna be left behind. And I think this is, if I could leave a message today, this is it. It's like we exist and we are here doing what we're doing exactly for that, to support people through this transition. So make sure that they feel comfortable, they feel okay and excited, and not fearful. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. And I think that's the key. Absolutely taking the
Yeah.
fear out of it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time today, Cleidi. I really enjoyed it.
It was lovely, and for anyone who may feel curious to get to know a little bit more about our work, just go to mlskillsacademy.com, and you can get in touch with us, and that'll be great to hear your opinion and get your feedback.
Excellent. And I'll put a link in for the YouTube video share side of it, and
Fantastic.
against the podcast episode too, so people can find it handy.
That's
Thanks, Cleidi. You're a
great.
star.
Thanks, Jenny.